that's really going to play in their favor, and I think they should be able to take this one.
We've seen a lot of teams here do really big pull, everything up to and including the bear right here. I would not be surprised if we see that from both teams here as well. It is Sanguine, so it is very important that you make sure that they all die about the same time, and that we are having such a large HP pool. We see actually the Moonkin duo going super low there from the cat jumping. They're going for that Grizzly, as I said, that big pull. Whatever you're awful, actually pulling them backwards a little bit.
I think the nice thing about the Boomkin was just illustrated, right? That was actually a double cat leap onto it, just a very tanky, ranged class. The Moonkin doing good AoE damage here, but the Warriors really are going to shine, so we see them investing their cooldowns. On the other hand, though, whatever we're awful is going to be off to a pretty tough start. We are going to see one of their members go down. There's the second. We see the Rogue go down as well. They're just going to release, run right back to the fight. Lethal looking really strong right now. They're dealing with this pack very well, but massive damage does come out to the raid. We're going to have to see what Amanda the Disc Priest can do to keep them up, and we're going to see the Warrior go down as well. Another kitty leap onto the Boomkin. It's getting pretty sketchy on both sides.
And both those casters are standing in Sanguine as well as healing. Oh, actually, that's the stuff from the bear that spawns. But both these teams are doing really sloppy pulls here. We saw from Lethal having a really bad timed quaking too. Now the bear does go down, so all the stuff that it spawns or its ad spawns is going down. But these Runers have been standing in Sanguine. They are full HP, and this is not a very efficient pull for either of the teams. And what are awful, they're actually a little bit ahead, or like basically exactly the same, but they have 4 deaths versus 1.
That's just really sloppy, especially with this Sanguine quaking. You know, yesterday we saw the Sanguine quaking tyrannical key play out on Maw of Souls to start, and you don't have to worry too much about those affixes on Maw until you really get into the boat. Here, if you don't pay attention to certain things, the Sanguine can get out of hand very quickly, just because the cats are going to be jumping around, because those casters, when they stand in there, they're a little bit harder to pull out. That is the nice thing about having these Blood Death Knights, but wow, those pulls, Trekkie, they were a little sketch.
Lisa did a little bit of a pull that we didn't properly see. They actually pulled a pack that whatever we're awful are pulling right now with the other trash pack, which might have made it so much more messy as well, because you have so many different mobs with different HPs. Sanguine pulls are gonna spawn randomly, and you have casters as well. Lethal is doing a really good job having pulled that trash already, and now making the way right before the first boss.
Yeah, Lethal has a really strong composition though for trash as well, so I think we will see them go for these bigger pulls, because the thing with the bigger pulls is you can say, okay, look, we don't have a fortified affix. We can say this is a pack that we just need to absolutely die. They're actually going to pull the bears here. This is usually a pull that we do see get skipped, because the bears, for a lot of reasons, can just be overbearing.
Yeah, indeed, and it's going to be very, like you said, we see most teams skip these, but these do not have a rogue in Team Lethal here, but they do kill the Grizzly, and this is a pretty dangerous pack, because those Grizzlies do a stacking debuff, and it does a little bit more damage. It does 50% more damage per bear you have there. However, they die so fast without fortified.
Yeah, it can definitely get a little bit hairy, so this will give them an extra percentage, extra amount of percentage for when they actually do move further on, so maybe we will see them skip things. I like the fact that they didn't invest in Invis pot here and not have their damage pots for the rest of the dungeon, but we are going to see Lethal now working on the boss. And look, I actually love what they're doing here. The Moonkin has saved Incarnation for this. We're going to see the Moonkin light up the damage meter in single target, you know, let the Arms Warriors really shine on the AoE. We're even seeing the Blood Death Knight do a lot of damage here as well. And it looks like whatever is actually going to skip the bears. I do like that. But now Lethal, they have it in the corner as well, and Sloot's already talked about this, Trekkie. When we actually do see the Archdruid go into his bear form, if you are up against the wall, that's really going to mitigate what he can do with his charge.
Yeah, he knocks you back, and it's more for the DPS than for the tank. It knocks you back as a tank and then deals damage when he charges you, but if he stands up to a wall, he's not going to be going out of melee range for the melee. And right here, you're also seeing them kite it slowly along the wall as well, so those ads that spawn, they spawn close to the boss, and they're just getting able to be cleaved out very well, and they're just having a very good strat that they're pulling it towards.
Whatever we're awful now is also going to be working on the Archdruid as well. Lethal definitely does have that head start by about 20%, but on top of that, they have a lead as far as trash is concerned. They've gotten way more trash, so they're already up at 35%, so we can see them skip mobs a little bit later. So we will see Lethal pulling ahead right now out of the gates. Let's see if they can keep up this clean attempt on this first boss. We want to keep in mind this is tyrannical.
Yeah, and whatever we're awful, actually doing exactly what you were talking about before. They're having the Guardian, the Resto Druid stand at max range, basically, so that he the boss will jump on the furthest player. He takes every single one of those. Lethal actually having 2 death there, 2 instant combat reses going out though, and just to be able to salvage this, they have still another 15% to go on the boss.
Yeah, that is a strong thing with the Boomkin and having this Blood Death Knight tank. So they are able to use those battle reses, but Amanda almost does go down there. And man, when he goes into that cat leap, he is not kidding around.
Indeed, and it's like 5% deaths to go. They're gonna just kill it off, and whatever waffle gonna be 20% behind, but they're a little bit behind on percentage too. As we were talking about before, they did not skip the bears. I would not be surprised if we see Lethal go for Invis pots in the very end of the tunnel before Savias. Meanwhile, whatever waffle might skip a pack there or two, but they do need to make up for that trash percent.
Yeah, as whatever we're awful is getting down this arch through, definitely want to talk about Invis pots. So one of the reasons you don't see the Invis pots come out very early is because it's going to incur a 10-minute CD on potions, so you can't actually use any damage potions at that point. So if you use it at the beginning, you are going to lose a lot of damage, but maybe entering into Xavius, we could see those Invis pots get used. It's one of the things that is really strong about having the rogue in your comp.
And we have talked about this before, like, because it is tyrannical, you want to make sure that you have your best chance of ever killing that boss, because wiping on a boss is going to spell a lot of trouble. So depending on what potions they do end up using here for some of these bosses, they just do a lot of damage, so that extra HP from actually using prolonged potion probably going to be better. I know some classes might have better DPS. We're actually going for Lethal going a super big pull here with the Keeper trash pack as well, and those, as we mentioned before, those Keepers are going to heal all those adds up, or the
this is the nice
flowers, it's going down faster. They don't
just, you have a warrior. Yeah, you have a warrior. You just basically go in with both warriors. You go Shockwave on the first one. You can pop Avatar. You can pop Ravager. Then the other warrior's going to hit him with Shockwave. By the time they heal, you actually need a target to heal it. So, you know, warriors are just going to go in and delete it, and that is definitely a good strategy there as well. Boomkin can pick up the slack in the interim period when those cooldowns are still active for the warriors. Now, whatever we're awful seems to be doing the same pool as well, and we're seeing the rogue and the warrior just bursting it out.
Yeah, they have similar kind of AoE damage, on-demand AoE burst. We've seen a lot in both those classes being very well represented in this tournament. And right now they seem to have all keepers down. Oh, they actually seem to have one more. Oh, they're actually standing in the Sanguine. That's why they're healing, actually. So,
yeah, the Sanguine can just get out of hand very quick, Trekkie. And I think having that Blood Death Knight just is super helpful because you can grip it out. But we're about to get into this Darkheart room, and there's definitely some mechanics that they're going to have to be paying attention to here. We talked about how Holy Paladins tend to be really strong because they can put the freedom on. Discipline Priests are going to have to be slightly more creative. We do have the Resto Druid on the other side for whatever we're awful. It's pretty easy to just run through them and shift in and out to get rid of the roots if you do need to clear up that real estate. I do know that sometimes the Subtlety Rogues will like to keep those roots up to have additional targets to Shuriken Storm, so maybe we won't see whatever we're awful rooting or power shifting out of them too quick.
We saw it, I think, I believe in the earlier series too, that they actually had a lot of them up, a lot of the roots still up. As long as you do clever movement, you don't actually need to get rid of that many of them, but you do need to clear it up a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to run out of space. The tank is going to get flinged around a little bit too, so you're going to have the movement, however the boss is turned well too. And here we go, Lethal pulling the boss now. So
one of the big mechanics is that grip that goes out on the tank. Trekkie, what do you like to do when you get gripped? I know that ability really can hurt like a birch.
Yeah, and the DKs are very well versed for this grip as well. So they do have a lot of cooldowns, especially like shorter cooldowns as well, that are very effective. We saw Prop Paladin in the earlier match, and they kind of have a little bit of trouble, but it depends on how much the boss actually hurts as well, how dangerous that is. So I wouldn't be surprised if we might see some classes actually going for more defensive options in trinkets, because you can actually swap around, even legendaries and stuff like that as well. And I think we're seeing a lot of shields coming up from Lethal. Pride is probably going to be a very popular pick for most classes in this for this boss.
Yeah, I think a lot of the bosses, especially on Tyrannical, you're going to want to be using that Prydos.
It's probably from the Disc Priest too as well, getting everyone shielded up before that stomp so that they don't take that much discrepancy in damage, HP, and whatever awful, just being like 30% behind. That is so much damage on the whole raid. Whatever.
So basically what happens with this key too, where the stomp gets a little bit messy, especially with the roots go out, so you don't have too much space. Sometimes you get a little bit clumped up. That stomp, as you mentioned, Trekkie, is going to do damage to the entire group. But if you are grouped up and Quaking comes in at a bad time, that Quaking is just going to do that additional bit of damage, and that can spell defeat very easily. But it looks like Lethal was able to handle that one, even with taking that additional Quaking damage. We did just see the breath that comes out as well. That is a conal ability that goes out on the front of the boss, and if a DPS does accidentally stand in that, they most likely are going to be going down.
Yeah, you get a debuff as well that takes you pretty hard, and we have seen DPSs deal with that too. So the Quaking here is going to be a big thing, as you mentioned, depending on when he comes out. Is it coming out when the tank is having grip, or right after, or right before the stomp? It can actually spell a lot of danger for the healer, having to interrupt the stop casting because he obviously doesn't want to get spell locked.
Yeah, and now we can see whatever we're awful. They're still just that little bit behind. They pretty much have been in the same position behind Lethal the entirety of this dungeon. They've caught up slightly in the trash department, but still they are about 20% behind on the boss. Looks like Lethal should be able to make Darkheart topple pretty soon here. And they've just kept up so many of the roots.
Yeah, the roots are all over the place, but you managed to like sidestep, move the boss around a little bit around the room. You do have plenty of space actually, so if you don't have an effective way of clearing, then you just really don't have to. You just have to play around it a little bit. And here Lethal is gonna take down Darkheart and go towards the restaurant's room. Meanwhile, whatever way off at 20% left.
Yeah, and yeah, whatever we're awful, you can see the damage from the Rogue is super high here, and also the BM keeping up as well. Now, this trash, we've already talked about some of the really important things with it so far, and the main thing is going to be off of this Fury, that big mob with the skull on it up there. It will drop out 4 little versions of itself, and they do not give any percentage in the trash department. So you want to make sure that right after, we're actually going to see someone go down, but right after you kill this mob, you want to run away as quick as possible as to not aggro those.
Yeah, they actually went for a super big pull. The Xera's going super low right before that Quaking as well. Can be a little bit lethal, but right for lethal. Driumvir going down again, Druvian going down a second time on this trash pack. Now they're pulling the Fury well off to the side so they can then kill it off and then not have the ads spawn close to where they are, so they can indeed skip them.
This could be huge for whatever we're awful. We see that they had just gotten down Darkheart. It appears to them that his bark was definitely worse than his bite, and now they are catching up very quickly to Lethal, and they were just that little bit behind for so long. So with this warrior going down twice, that's an additional 10 seconds, a huge damage loss, and they're still working on that initial Fury pull. So we could see whatever we're awful just really catch up here, because they are also on the Fury right now. Now, moment of truth, let's see if they pull these extra 4 mobs. They start moving away very quickly. They do a good job, but that is going to be difficult if they do ever wipe. They definitely will pull those Furies. They have to go back right now and resurrect that second warrior who has fallen down.
Yeah, right now they have to wait for the patrol anyway, so they're not actually losing that much time in terms of resting him again. Whatever Waffle being basically at the same trash pack there, they're just going to have to avoid that patrolling Fury as well, and it looks like it's exactly the same patrol pattern for both teams. So whatever Waffle going to take their opportunity right here, freeze that Fury so he doesn't actually keep patrolling, and then walk on, and we're going to be basically heads-to-heads right up, coming up to Dresseron.
Now, if I was playing against Dresseron right now, obviously he does like to do that wind ability that's going to push everyone back. A lot of times when I'm playing this on Boomkin, just stand in a corner and just let the eggs pop and just stand right there the entirety of the fight, so you can just free cast nice and easy, especially when you are going to be investing Incarnation here. So now we are going to like, just popped Incarnation can be something that is super annoying. But both of these teams working on Dresseron at a similar percentage, just like a few percentage behind is whatever we are awful.
Yeah, maybe that Druid can flap his way out of that pushback, but we actually see a lot of damage coming out in Lethal's corner too. Right after that, Roar comes out as well, spawns that brown stuff on the ground as well that you don't want to stand in, so they're just gonna have to use a little bit of the room there. Here comes a second pushback during a Quaking too. That's gonna be a little bit dangerous for the healer, but he should be able to keep them all up. There's just another second to go on that pushback, and it just gets everyone back up.
Now, a thing that we've talked about a lot recently is, especially on this boss, is if you actually just purposely pull the eggs the Rogue can use the Shuriken Storm, generate 5 combo points just off of that one global, and then invest all of the finishers onto Dresseron. And we are actually seeing whatever we're awful doing that, but not quite as quickly as we've seen other groups do it. And that's why the BM Hunter's actually just pumping such serious damage right now compared to the Rogue. Rogue finally just starting to top him on the DPS meter. But that damage is very good damage. Like, it's not like you're just padding the meter, and that's why we can see whatever we're awful actually pulling ahead now. They started behind, and that single target damage that is coming out of that Subtlety Rogue with that additional help from those dragons is enough to let them pull ahead. They're just doing more damage now. And yes, they are still behind on trash percentage, but they do have the Rogue, so they will be able to skip any trash packs if they need to. And if we see them do some really good pulls, like this one is actually neck and neck now.
Yeah, it's really close. They could do a really big pull later on and just try to destroy all the trash, and we can basically see both these teams be at the same place in time right now. And whatever Waffle having a lot more boss DPS. They're already down to 15%. That's 10% units on the boss. They are fully ahead now, despite pulling the boss after Lethal.
Lethal should be able to do some serious damage at this point in the boss fight because they have 2 warriors who are going to be executing, so that is definitely going to increase their damage. But on the side of whatever we're awful, they will have that advantage as well with some execute. And you can see right now, just the damage that the Rogue is putting out is mind-boggling. They're going to be able to down Dresseron first. Now let's see how quickly they can deal with this trash. They need to catch up in this department as well. Lethal still chipping away at the dragon.
Yeah, they're now 7%. Maybe there's a difference in time between the boss dying. Might make up for that 7%. And then as long as both these teams do this pull properly without the Sanguine healing too much, both of these teams should be able to kill this trash really fast. We see whatever Waffle actually gone for a little bit of small pull. I don't mind this one. I think it's pretty smart because it can get out of hand if you don't have those proper interrupts, knockback, pushbacks, that kind of stuff. When they do start casting after some of the imps, for example, that has so much less HP, start dying off and leaving Sanguine pool.
Also, their composition isn't as catered to doing these massive pulls, so I like the fact that they are playing to their strength because they still have one more tyrannical boss left, and we already saw how much they caught up on that last boss. So once they get in there, if they can preserve their cooldowns, go in and do maximum DPS, like obviously if either of these teams wipe and the other one doesn't, that team will win, the team that doesn't wipe. But at this point, even if it is a little bit close and whatever we're awful starts later, if they can keep up that strong boss TPS, they should be able to pull ahead. Unfortunately for the Rogue, he won't have that additional help from those dragons, the additional combo points that comes out from that Shuriken Storm. So Lethal, their lead should be a little bit more than it was prior.
Right now, I think it's actually pretty substantial because teaming messes with everyone's mind with the percentage and how much each mob and each pack gives. Whatever awful, he's not going to reach 100% with this trash pack, so you might see them doing something we saw in the previous series with this skip the neck trash and go straight for the boss and then go back and kill 1 or 2 mobs off just after the boss ends up dying. And Lethal probably they're actually gonna skip this. This actually really surprises me because they could have just invis potioned and get through there if they didn't use it earlier.
Yeah, well Lethal did not use the Invis potion earlier, but I think they really are going to value using potions on Xavius. So they have to pull a little bit more trash, but luckily for them, they do have the Arms Warrior. Looks like he's going to be able to use some of his 1.5 minute cooldowns here. Just get rid of that pack. They're all going to be able to sit down now and go into Xavius nice and ready. Whatever we're awful right now has to get down this trash before they have the pull, but they are still very close. Only 1 extra death. That's only 5 seconds behind, and they are finishing up this trash right now. Also, do want to point out, this is one of the first times we are getting the healing meters. And you can see the Blood Death Knights just sometimes. That's really going to be coming off of their artifact ability consumption. That's going to be giving leech to the entire group. So that's an impressive thing to see, and it is very important, especially when you get to certain keys. We will see that really kicking into overdrive, and now Shade of Xavius is going to get started by Lethal.
Yeah, Lethal having a little bit of a miscalculation with how much trash ended up pulling, so both teams actually doing exact same amount. From what we saw, this is actually going to be super close. Whatever Waffle had a lot more boss DPS on Dresseron, so even if this is 10% units on the boss difference, this might actually go either way.
Wow, the Druid's getting spiked right now for whatever we're awful. We're going to see just absolute yo-yo. A lot of this pressure can be put out by those Nightmare Bolts. They can target anyone in the group, and it is a huge amount of damage. And on Tyrannical, it can really hurt people, so that's why you're going to see people maybe using Prydas, and this is the scariest boss. This is the master of the Thicket.
This could go very wrong very fast there, especially with the Quaking affix too, where you have that purple circle under you where you have to stack up with someone else to avoid getting silence, and you have Quaking on top of that, either forcing you to get silence for a little bit or just stack up and take all that damage. Lethal now having the Feet of the Weak on their healer, taking a lot of damage there. He doesn't have any way of like really mitigating that outside of just out healing it, which he knows very well it's on him. And then now they're gonna get to 50%. Everyone gonna stack up. They're having the power barrier down. Everyone taking 20% less damage when standing in that one. Probably having a commanding shout from the warriors too as well.
Yeah. Just throw out that commanding shout, and then you also the very big cooldown coming out from the Disc Priest. But we can actually see the warrior wasn't topped off at that 50% mark. That looked very sketchy for a second there, but whatever we're awful is going to be able to handle that one. They have a very sturdy composition. It's undeniable. They have 3 battle reses, first of all. They have a rogue with cheat death. They basically have all the utility that Lethal does have, plus a battle res.
This is gonna be so close, and in Lethal's corner as well, they're having a little bit less boss DPS, but they do have that Disc Priest doing a little bit of damage. Meanwhile, in Whatever Awful, their healer not doing any damage, but now it's only the 3% behind Whatever Awful, having 1 extra death on top of that, so they need to make sure that they kill the boss 5 seconds earlier. This is gonna be neck in neck.
If this warrior goes down, it's just absolutely going to be terrible. We do still see some battle reses represented on their side. Druid now going out of Incarnation. It is neck and neck, about the same percentage here. We will say, though, that Awful needs to do it just 5 seconds quicker because they do have an additional death. Oh, and we are going to see another one go down for them as well. A quick battle res going to get up that warrior, but that could be enough for Lethal to just be able to take this one.
Lethal should be able to take this one as well. After 20%, the boss dropped so fast into those 2 warriors as well, and that's really close. 2 extra death from Whatever Waffle corner and 10% on
Server,
the boss.
get off the corpse. Show me the loot. Man, hanging out on Xavius' corpse. We just want to see that chest, and we can see Zeos dancing on it right now. Whatever we're awful, though, just about to down the boss as well. This one was very close, Rob.
Yeah, what an absolute barn burner that turned out to be. You know, you saw that gap. If you were watching the team fight on both screens, or not the team fight, rather the boss fight on both screens, it was 10% difference, 10% difference, 10% 8% difference, 6%, suddenly